Good morning. My name is Susan, and I am your facilitator today for Soul School Network on Sunday, January the 5th, 2025. And we are delighted to have David Elul, if that's how I say it. You could tell me, David. David is with us this morning, and we are really excited about his topic. And the title of which is Unveiling the Timeless Wisdom of Non-Dual Shaiva Tantra. And this is a really deep, amazing topic. So I'm sure David's just going to put our little tippy toe into it and have a taste of it. So I'm excited for our first get together of 2025. And I don't know about you, I feel really excited. We're clearly in a time of great change and opportunity. And certainly, I'm really optimistic about the topics that we're going to bring forward in 2025, starting off with David and seeing where we go from there. And we welcome any ideas that you may have. I just want to mention that Kavita, who's in Thailand, is a facilitator with Soul School Network, as is Koryanka. And good morning, Andrea. Nice to see you. Good morning, Nancy. Yes, and so we're excited for this year and all the opportunities and all that we're going to learn together and grow together and how we're going to expand our consciousness together. And so we like to start out with a grounding meditation so that we can just be quiet together and come with clear mind as we hear from David and all that he has to share. And so I'd like to turn it over to Koryanka and go on from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. I will invite everyone to relax your body, close your eyes, and just kind of gently go within, taking a deep breath through the nose, and the air goes out through the nose. Deep breath, one more time. We'll start scanning our bodies for any tension there might be, starting at the head. We'll just observe without making any meaning out of it. Scan the crown of your head, the back of your head, your face and neck, your shoulders, one arm and then the other. All the way down to your hands. Now scan your back from the neck all the way down to the final bone of the spine. You can focus your attention now on your chest. And your abdomen. Are there any sensations so far? Any muscle tension? Just observe for now. Continue with your right leg and foot, and then the left leg and foot. Wherever you found tension, let it go gently by visualizing that it is a white cloud that slides down your body and exits through the feet. leaving your body through the soles of the feet. Perhaps there will be many clouds of tension leaving your body, and that is great. We are letting them go, and you can feel good about it. Once tension is out of your body, it will be gone and transformed into life-giving energy. Let's take a deep, relaxing breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Let it feel good. You can stretch your body and make sure you are comfortable wherever you are. You are a beloved child of the earth, deeply connected to her. Notice how your feet are planted on the ground, either physically or energetically at all times. Feeling the earth with the soles of your feet. Feel how your energy grows and extends itself from the soles of your feet towards Mother Earth. You are growing energetic roots that go into the moist, rich soil under your feet, uniting with the Mother, receiving nourishment and love from her. The more your roots extend and go deeper and deeper into the earth, the more you feel deeply grounded and held in love by Mother Earth. Stay present in this moment. Remain grounded and present in this moment. Grounded and present. Grounded and present. You can gently go back to your breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. One more time. Now you can slowly open your eyes when it feels good to you, and you can move your body slowly as you come back.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Koreanka. So appreciate you and bringing us all together. So here we go. And let's see here. I'm going to do an introduction to our guest speaker this morning. Welcome, David. And as I mentioned earlier, the topic today, unveiling the timeless wisdom of non-dual Shaiva Tantra. And so I'm just going to read, in case you didn't have the opportunity, the introduction. Step into the profound wisdom of non-dual Shaiva Tantra, an ancient tradition from Kashmir that reveals the ultimate truth of reality as a seamless unity. Rooted in the understanding that all forms of existence arise from and dissolve back into infinite consciousness, this philosophy offers a revolutionary vision of life. In this talk, we'll explore its rich history, foundational philosophy, and timeless teachings, uncovering how this tradition illuminates the nature of the self, the interconnectedness of all things, and the path to liberation through direct realization of your divine essence. And to tell you a little bit about David Balananda has been on the yogic path for nearly a decade and has been working with psychedelics for 10 years. He has a deep understanding of traditional Tantra, specifically non-dual Shaiva Tantra, and is currently in his second year of learning university-level Sanskrit. David has also studied New Age Tantra, Buddhism, and Taoism practices. His main focus is on reading and translating ancient texts and scriptures to understand the origins and philosophies behind these traditions. David's primary practices include traditional non-dual Shaiva Tantra, traditional Hatha Yoga, Bhakti devotional kirtan, and mantra chanting, and plant medicine rituals. Thank you so much, David. Welcome. We look forward to all you have to share this morning. I'm just going to put you on speaker view, and I welcome you to go ahead.
All right, thank you. Just
Thank you.
checking the sound. Everyone can hear me good?
Yes.
All right. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about this stuff. And just before we begin, usually it's very challenging to compress this topic into a short time limit. Usually my classes, weekly classes, is about 2 hours each on different subjects from this tradition. So I try to do my best and to give a brief background, and then I chose a specific topic regard to the topic of awakening according to the tradition and how we can apply it into our life. So yeah, I will try to do it in a sense of a time. But if at any point it's going over time or something, feel free to just say. And I will give room to question in the middle of it before I switch from subject to subject, just to make sure everything is clear. And also, there is a lot to say about it, and the idea to come to this topic with a clean mind of projection of what is this tradition, because we have subject like Tantra, which is very controversial today in the world. It's not the Neo-Tantra subject. It's not about this conscious sexuality stuff. It's the traditional aspect of it, which is very little related to the Neo-Tantra. We have non-duality, which by itself, it's a very challenging topic to put into words. So hopefully I will do my best with some slides and images to describe the topic from this tradition, and also to understand this tradition for its time and place. So I will also give a background of how this tradition came to be, what is the state of mind supporting this coming of this tradition. So yeah, let's begin. I'll share my screen, and just before officially begin, let's see. I would like to do a short invocation. This is something that it's very common when interacting with this teaching. So I just invite you to close your eyes for a moment. It's just a brief traditional invocation. Agni Shomaravi Brahma Vishnu Stavarajangama Svarupa Bahurupaya Namah Sangvidmayayate Samasta Lakshana Yoga Eva Yasya Palakshanam Tasmai Namostu Devaya Kasmai Chit Api Shambhave Maya Vene Vishuddhaya Guhyaya Prakatatmane Sukshmaya Vishvarupaya Namashchitraya Shambhave Namah Satata Badaya Nitya Nirmukti Bhagine Banda Moksha Vihinaya Kasmai Chit Api Shambhave Jaya Deva Namo Namostute Sakalam Vishva Meidam Tavashritam Jagatam Parameshvaro Bhavan Paramekach Sharanagatos Mite. May you be glorified, O essence of consciousness, appearing in many forms, as the trident of subject, object, and means of knowledge, as the animate and inanimate. May you be glorified, the mysterious Shambhu, whose only definition that is devoid of all definition. Homage to that wondrous Shambhu, the deluding one who is yet pure and clear, the hidden one who is yet revealed himself, the subtle one whose form yet take the form of the whole universe. Homage to Shambhu, the one who is ever bound yet enjoy eternal liberation, and who is beyond bondage and liberation. May you be glorified, O Mahadeva, homage, adoration, O protector of the whole universe, supreme lord of the three worlds, for refuge, I come to you alone. You're welcome to take a deep breath and open your eyes. So this as an example for recitation from the tradition itself, and yeah, and I will share more about it. It's just in terms of invocation, this is how I've learned to interact with this teaching. So unveiling the timeless wisdom of non-dual Tantra. So there is a quote here. I put a quote here, the first sutra for a traditional text called the Pratyabhijna Hridayam, which is basically called in English the Recognition Sutra. And this is how an example for how this tradition is describing the subject of this, which we're going to talk about. So, Chitich Swatantra Vishvasiddhih Etuh, which means awareness, free and independent, is the cause of the performance of everything. So the main thing that we're going to talk about today is consciousness and awareness per se. And before we begin to dive into this tradition, just to understand the background of the Hindu, the yogic tradition, and the timeline, where we are in time and space also. So the most ancient traditions, scriptures documented coming from the land of India. We have the Vedas, which just the written down of the text itself is it happened like around 3,000 years ago, and but it much earlier in terms of maybe oral tradition, recitation. Parallel to that, you have the Shramana movement, is a movement of ascetics, which the Buddha himself was influenced and joined to when he's discovering the path towards awakening. After that, you have the Upanishad, you have the Bhagavad Gita, the songs of the Lord, where Krishna gave us the teaching about Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and basically also very much give an opposite opinion about the Buddhist movement coming at that time, where a lot of people renounce their work, their jobs, their prescribed duties, and they choose to just live in the forest. And Krishna says, the text comes and says, we cannot renounce all of us. You can do yoga and get awakened through your prescribed duties. So this is kind of like an opposite idea to that. We have the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which very much influence from Buddhism as well. A lot of scholars can see in the choice of words, even though it's a fundamental text in yoga, we will understand what is the state of mind like contributing. If you're familiar with the Yoga Sutras, it's mainly about the cessation of suffering, which is influenced by Buddhism, and a lot of the description of meditation or the work with Ishvara, for example, the devotion for God in the Yoga Sutras, very much inspired from the Gita. And then you have Shaivism movement, which is a transgressive movement of ascetics, babas, uh, outcasts in society, doing a lot of transgressive practices, rituals, cover themselves with ash. We can still see those sects in India today, in the area of Varanasi, or now actually there is the Ma Kumbh Mela. So a lot of them come to the Ganga and practice and celebrate. And from that give reason to the tantric yoga. Okay, tantric yoga from around 500, the 6th century to the 12th century, but it flourished fully from the 9th to the 12th century. It was the peak of it, the peak of this tradition. And then the Islamic invasion came, kind of like destroyed a lot of it, and the knowledge almost disappeared. But then the tradition of yoga very much familiar as also took place this day, a lot of transformation and changing. So where we are in the space, we talk about time. In the space, this is the land of India, and this specific tradition was flourished in this area in the circle, the land of Kashmir, which is very much similar to the Andean region, the Sacred Valley, a lot of mountain lakes, and very beautiful place to be. And you can see the strategic location of it, which this line from China all the way to the west represent the Silk Road, and Kashmir was very much close to it. And this is another thing that contribute to this flourish of tradition in that land. It's a lot of people came through this exchange knowledge, philosophies, tradition, and Kashmir kind of played like a very significant role because the king itself supported people to be spiritual, to learn and to think, and you can get funds to actually develop the tradition. So a lot of great thinkers were there, and something that was very common in that time, it's the ability to debate and to like sit few tradition in one circle or composing text about your idea and kind of like debating other tradition, and this actually the results of how this tradition is so complete and developed because in order to come up with an idea and to suggest it to others, you really need to know what is the other tradition say so. So people develop their knowledge in other tradition, like for example, Advaita Vedanta, Buddhism, and yoga, and Shaivism and Tantra. And in order to understand deeper on your tradition, you had to know about other tradition, and this is how they debate about what is the essence of reality. And actually whoever won, it's kind of like people stop listening to the other one and you start following this tradition. So there is a lot of sophistication, a lot of listening and hearing, understanding each other and debating in order to give room for the tradition to grow. And now we are on the non-dual tantra. So after we have an idea of time and space where we are, what is the non-dual Shaiva tantra? So it's a philosophical tradition based on idealist, anti-materialist monism, also called consciousness-only view. So monism is a term we can understand basically on the early years of India. Pluralism was the flourished specifically around the Vedas, when you have many gods, many deities, and you give them the same amount of devotion and offering, and you worship the same with the same respect and the same amount of time. So you have multiple god. And then you have monotheism, which developed also around the Gita, the time of the Gita, when Krishna is saying, I am the only one, and all the other gods are just different aspects of my face. And thus you have a tradition or the philosophy of monotheism, which is very much like the Judo-Christo-Islamic tradition, when you have the individual and you have God and you have a relationship with that being in different ways. and you cannot be hit. You cannot be one with it. It's forbidden. Also, in a lot of tradition, the last one in Christianity said, "I'm one with God," was crucified, and Rumi had to censor his devotion and talk about a relationship with the beloved, for example. So you can be in with God in the same space, in the whole, in terms of heavens and stuff like this. But yeah, there is you and there is God. And then the idea of monism developed, which basically saying only God exists. There is no separation between the individual and God. And this is basically this tradition. And this is why it's so complex to talk about it and to describe it using words, because everything we say, it's misleading, because you cannot point at it as essentially everything is this. There are three pillars supported this tradition, which is, like I said before, logical arguments, which was very essential, again, because, for example, the Advaita Vedanta, which literally means also the non-dual Vedanta, Advaita means non-dual, Advai, and Vedanta, Veda, Anta, the end of knowledge. So you have the Vedantic tradition and Advaita Vedanta. It's like the non-dual tradition, which also proclaim a non-dualistic view. But how come they don't agree with each other? This is have a lot to do with argument and logical. They claim one thing, which we're going to talk about, and the Shaiva claim another thing. And they need to understand each other and to like debunk the other opinion and perspective through a deep contemplation and philosophical thinking. So a lot of that gave reason to such detailed tradition. Another thing is mystical and spiritual experiences, something that was very common, and these things also give reason to a lot of insight and profoundness to in all of the tradition in general, also the yogic tradition, and scriptural revelation. A lot of masters and saints were receiving certain teaching from a divine interference or an experience, so called. And this is like how the tradition became as it is. Another thing that it's very common to the tradition, for example, the cognition analysis. This tradition managed to divide the process of cognition in our mind into 12 phases, symbolized by the 12 gold circle here in the image, each linked to aspects of the tantric goddess Kali. So they actually managed to go deep into this state of cognition, and because it's about awareness and consciousness, they managed to divide the cognition process of our mind into 12, and they like celebrating and venerating these 12 aspects of cognition in various way. But this is very abstract and advanced teaching. So yeah, this is just an example of how deep they went into themselves in terms of it's not just a thought anymore. There is different aspect of the mind, different aspect of operation of how consciousness operating within our mind, and how can we tap into our true essence. The non-dual Shaiva Tantra text have three main registers, which is philosophical argument, logical discourse on the tradition principles, and you can see in many texts, if you actually manage to read those texts, they actually answer other tradition by debunking some ideas. For example, they like to debunk the Buddhist idea of shunyata and emptiness, and they say, for example, how can you experience emptiness? If there was really emptiness, you weren't there to experience it. And like all of this kind of idea of what is essentially there. They have a lot of poetry and expressive and symbols of language to inspire spiritual insight through art, a lot of poems and Scriptures meant to describe devotion and profound experiences, and practical manuals, basically guides for rituals and practices. One is very famous, is the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, which is a text of describing 112 meditation and techniques to reach the supreme, to reach the ultimate. Any question until now from someone about any of it? Something wasn't clear until now.
Thank you, David. I don't see anybody with their virtual hand up, so if you don't know how to do that, just feel free to unmute if you need to ask a question, but it doesn't look like it. Thank you,
All right,
David.
so let's continue. What is the view behind this tradition? So the view is very essential to understand this tradition, because when one is walking a spiritual path, to understand what is this path, how they see the world, this is just the basic understanding. I want to see the world as they do. If you're doing yoga, if you're doing Buddhism, if you're doing Taoism or Christianity, shamanism, I want to learn how they perceive the world, and then I learn how to see it as well. So the view is there is only one consciousness, one being, whose body is the entire universe of phenomena and whose soul is awareness. In reality, there is no plurality of agents, only one all-encompassing agency. Like the illusion of individual self, for example, is something that is very much repeated along this tradition and earlier tradition as well. All individuated sentient beings are contracted embodiments of the one being and thus microcosms of the whole. And now, what's the difference between other tradition of non-duality, for example, Advaita Vedanta? It's that most of the tradition from Tibetan Buddhism, non-dual Buddhism, Tantric Buddhism, and Advaita Vedanta, and other earlier tradition from Patanjali Yoga Sutras and all of it, the world is not an illusion like they describe it. It's not like a samsara and maya, for example. And this is a notion that you're pretty much familiar from the idea of Buddhism, for example, or Patanjali Yoga Sutras, or other tradition that claim that the world that we experience is an illusion, is maya, is samsara, and we want to break free from it. So according to this tradition, the world is real. It's not illusory. It's a real transformation of consciousness. It arises with the appearance of patterns and structures, space, time, and forms, are modes of the self-expression of consciousness, but they are not absolute or fundamental. Consciousness is. So just to understand again, the notion of breaking out of samsara, which is a valid argument in many traditions, came from a mind of that experienced a lot of suffering, experienced a lot of suffering and disappointment from this world and bitterness, and thus the idea of escaping this, it's very fundamental in many traditions. In this tradition, there is no escaping, because this is it. This is everything that there is. And instead of just developing this observer detachment point of view, state of mind of this complete yogi who just sitting there and just nothing bothers him and is not interacted with the world, is renounced, for example, in Advaita Vedanta and Buddhism, renouncing the world. The tantric wants to live in the world. They want to awaken through the sense object, through pleasures, rituals, ceremony, love, devotion, sexuality, substances, and enjoying life, but cultivating the right view and awareness about actually what is it. So this is very essential to understand it, because if it's non-dual, and they, for example, the Advaita Vedantin simply say, describe this reality as an error, a cognitive error, like in the saying in the text, for example, it's like mistaking a rope for a snake in the road, and you think you see a snake, but then you come close and you just see it's a rope. This is what happened here. You think it's real, but it's eventually it's not real, and this is just a mistake. Who created this mistake? They don't have an answer for it. This is kind of like something that don't have, and the Shaiva describe it very much in details. So there is no mistake according to this tradition. And now we're going to talk about what is awakening according to this tradition, which is very essential to our time also, as we try or we are on the awakening process as individuals. What does the awakening look like from this tradition? And not that it's anything special than other traditions, but it's important when we practice certain views or tradition to understand what is the end goal for this tradition. And for example, in Buddhism, it's the shunyata or the void. And other tradition, you go to heaven or you do this kind of state. You become a complete yogi, a renounce, a siddha, all of it. But what is actually, in terms of cognition, what is awakening and how it's been described through this? First of all, what awakening is not. According to this tradition, awakening is not a peak experience. And now this is where the new age time come, and this tradition based with time and space is reflected to our times when a lot of us may be attached to peak experiences, and we look at awakening as like an experience or a binary state, or you have it or you don't. I had an awakening or stuff like that. I had an awakening experience, which this tradition, and what I'm saying is not judging any of the experience anyone have, is just in times and space, according to this tradition, around 1,000 years ago, how they describe it. And they describe it, it's not an epic experience. It's not a dramatic, mystical experience, and it's not about gaining something new or special. It's not about wisdom or knowledge also. Many associated awakening with enlightenment, believing it's about acquiring some higher wisdom, but in truth, awakening is about losing things, specifically your conditions belief about who you are and what the world is. And this is very essential to understand. What is awakening actually is, according to the tradition? So, first of all, it's a paradigm shift. Awakening is like a shift in how you see and experience everything. It's a change in perception, not an experience of something new. It's as though you wake up from a dream seeing that what you thought was real wasn't. And eventually losing the I concept, the individualized false self. Awakening reveals that the I thought, the idea of yourself as individual, this is the illusion. This is the illusion of separation. It's not who you truly are. And if we want to see everything is unity, then eventually in those experience, the sense of individualization, it's not there anymore. And this is also very interesting because it could be triggering to a lot of people who had certain experience, or aiming to achieve something out there in the future. But according to this tradition, awakening can never happen in the future. It can never happen at some time that can never exist. It's happened right now, and in this midst of life, this change of perception help you see things as they are. And this is where certain practices, coming to play. So this is a great analogy to think about it. Imagine that you're looking through a window, completely absorbed in the view outside, attenting to everything you see. Suddenly, you shift your focus and realize that you're no longer looking outside, you're looking at your own reflection in the windows. This shift represents the shift from being absorbed in the content of consciousness, thoughts, emotion, perception, to focusing on consciousness itself. Sam Harris, it's a very good speaker about it. He actually follow more a Buddhistic view, but is describing this shift very good. He says, you don't realize that you are looking through the very thing you are trying to find in every moment. You don't. This is the shift. Instead of identifying with the thoughts, images, or experiences you begin to recognize awareness itself, which is the lens through which all of these experiences are perceived. It's like discovering that the thing you've been seeking has always been right there, behind everything else. Awareness. Awareness itself. The fundamental presence that allow you to experience anything at all. In this moment of realization, you no longer just see through the window of your mind, you recognize that you are the awareness, the one observing the entire panorama of experiences. The search for meaning, truth, or self no longer feels like a quest for something external. Instead, it's a recognition that awareness itself, both the means and the end. This is a profound shift in perception, a radical reorientation from the world of objects and experiences to the awareness that holds them all. And this is how the tradition describe it as eventually the fundamental nature of reality. It's awareness. Awareness, it's what is predominant before everything happened. And the fact we can actually perceive anything, it's a result of awareness. So when we say non-dual Shaiva Tantra and we talk about the goddess and the god and all of these deities, those are different aspects of this consciousness. Means there is no like something external. They just in this tradition very much venerating, celebrating, and practicing simply awareness, which all of us can resonate with it because all of us have it. Any question? Something until now? If something wasn't as clear and need more elaboration. All right. This is like an image to reflect it. Imagine when you see something through the window and you see the world of reality, but instead of being focused on what you see, you try to perceive your own reflection, actually the one who see and get identifying with this. In this tradition, they describe 4 stages for awakening. And it's important to understand when, even if we are not following this tradition, I found it very beneficial to learn from this philosophy, as it can help us to become more humble and also more goal-oriented and more better understanding of what is that we're experiencing and how it unfold in a linear moment by moment experience. So awakening is not a single event for most of us. For some people, it is. It's very rare, and as many teachers, according to this tradition, says, we shouldn't count on this happening to us unless it is, and then we can know for sure. And then we need also an external validation from someone that is qualified to say it. But other than that, only few got the privilege to have a sudden awaken. But it's usually for most of us, it's not a single event. It's happened gradually in stages, and this is how it unfolds. So first of all, and also it's not necessarily happened by disorder. It's not necessarily happened that one experience all 4 stages. One can skip a stage, one can have all of them very fast, one can begin from the end and then unfold it backwards. There is no condition for how awakening has actually happened. because as we're gonna understand that it's not necessarily the individual process of awakening. So it doesn't have any condition or rules. Otherwise, people will just follow these rules and awakening will for sure happen. But it's not working like this. And this is why you have many people practicing different tradition and describe awakening in different ways. So it's not fundamental or something that we should take as literal it is, but maybe we can resonate with some of it. The first stage, waking up from the socially constructed self. So first of all, this is the first realization. Your thoughts, memories, self-image don't define who you are really. The idea of I is just a collection of thoughts and stories, not a solid, real entity. When you see this clarity, when you see this with clarity, the ego starts to lose its grip. Okay, so suddenly we have this moment when we're no longer bound by what we think of ourselves, memories, self image. We understand there is something deeper, and this is not longer how we define ourselves. This is a moment of, again, when the ego is slowly perishing. Waking up from conceptual overlay. That means you stop projecting your mental ideas, judgment onto the world around you. Instead of seeing things through the lens of your belief system, which is inherent from an external sources, our parents, our country, region, language, culture, everything that we think how life should be, it was given to us. Also, the thing that we've learned and experiences and trauma, and then we are projecting it on the world outside. So this moment when we are no longer following this narrative that we think we know, we begin to see this concepts as they really are. It's like removing the filter that distorts your reality. This stage can take time to unravel, but once it does, it brings clarity and simplicity. And this is a lot of healing work and a lot of cleaning and understanding that when I speak from a place of trauma, this is not necessarily how reality is. And eventually, awakening means to be in touch with reality the way it is. Understanding the way I perceive it is just not as accurate, and I start giving up those conceptual thoughts that I possessed, and sometimes I hold a lot. For example, in tradition, in religion, this is something called fundamentalism, and it's very dangerous when people from certain tradition take what their text says and see it as literal, and it's more important than the other one's text or tradition, and hence they should die for this idea. And this is just mm, a glimpse of understanding of how this could hurt us and it can cause harm. And basically, we want to peel these concepts off. And when we follow a certain tradition, trying to see how everything is encompassing in this tradition. And this tradition, specifically the non-dual Shaiva Tantra, they say yes for everything. All the tradition are welcome. They never very interesting. In India at that time, there is no evidence for violence between traditions beside debates, which gave birth to a more sophisticated tradition. But they could actually flourish and live together as Buddhists, as Shaiva, as Vaishnavat, as Tantric yogis, and they could actually live together and do what they do, but there is no evidence of violence or like trying to convert someone. You understand, you cannot force anything to happen, and thus everyone's a welcome. Waking up from the dream of separation. At this stage, one realized that he is not separate from the world around him. The belief in separation fades. You experience a profound unity with everything, the people, environment, and universe. But again, it doesn't mean you become one with everything in a mystical sense, but that you directly perceive that there is no real separation. Now, this idea is not new. It's actually also we can find it in Buddhism. as the great philosopher Nagarjuna described the the false idea of independent origination, of something is existing separate from everything else. And this is what the idea of the illusion of separation. For example, when we see a tree, according to this philosophy, describe it very well, we see an individual tree. But this tree could not exist without the right soil and the right condition and the sunlight, even the distance from the sun, and the whole universe is in structure in a way so the tree could be what it is. And hence, without it, it wouldn't just be a tree. So when we see something as individual, and we are not seeing the chain of event causing this manifestation to arise, and how the interconnectedness of all things, as we as well are dependent on our parents to come here, and dependent on our social environment and food and condition and nature and all of it to thrive and to actually be and live. So this is how reality is dependent on itself. And it's become much more clear as soon as I will talk about how it's actually happening according to this tradition. But the sense of separation is just simply false, and there is no such thing as something that is exist outside of all of it. And when you think about it, when we are trying to hold on our individuality and our sense of power as individuals, being separate from everything else, that's kind of a lonely feeling. It's not as bright and as this tradition suggests. Also, taking responsibility is for a lot of people because we understand we have responsibility of how we are interacting with the world and how we are sharing our energy with the world. And the fourth stage, waking up from the belief of objective reality. This is crucial to this tradition. This stage is about realizing that the world we see, the material objects we interact with, aren't as real as we thought. There is no objective reality independent of our own perception. The world is an appearance shaped by our mind and awareness. This is a subtle and deep realization, one that changed the relationship with everything. So, what does that mean? Now, let's see how the tradition describe it. Okay, this is, for example, another quote from the text Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. Like I said before, describing 112 techniques to reach this cognitive state of the ultimate. And in Sanskrit, it says Grahya Grahaka Sangvitaha Samanaya Sarvadehinam Yoginam tu Vishoshusti Sambande Savadanata. The subject object consciousness is common to everybody. Subject refers to the one perceiving. For example, you are now perceiving me. Your objectivity level of awareness is perceiving my voice, my screen, the light that come into your eyes. This relationship of subject object. I'm an object to you. And the yogis, however, are especially alert regarding this relationship. Okay, because for everyone it seems like there is a subject and separate object, and there is no connection between the two. But according to this tradition, and they prove it very well, one cannot be without the other. How is that so? And this is where we have some a bit of terminology through this tradition. So I'm giving you a taste of the nectar of the teaching in their essence. If it's too advanced for anyone, if it's something that is too complicated, just feel free to ask question, and I will elaborate more. But this is as simple as I could get it. So you have two main terms that describe this relationship. Means prakasha, illumination, and vimarsha, self-awareness. This state we are perceiving all the time, and this is actually what makes us different from certain animals and other objects in reality, which they have just prakasha, just self-awareness, and they don't have the ability to they have just awareness. They don't have the ability to reflect on their own awareness. And this is why humans are very unique in that aspect. So prakasha, it represents pure consciousness, the light of awareness that illuminates all experiences. Okay? It symbolizes the static, unchanging, and formless aspects of reality. It is the universal subject, the eye or witness behind all phenomena. And basically, the fact that you can perceive anything in this reality, that you wake up and you just can hear sound and see visions and shapes, and you can taste and experience reality. This is not, you don't need a self reflection for it, but the fact that you can perceive reality, nature does it. This is prakasha. This is just awareness itself, just being aware to whatever is going on. And in more poetic description, Prakasha is Shiva's power to simply exist and shine. Shiva refers to the ultimate one, according to this tradition, is just simply exist and shine, the passive yet infinite ground of being. Okay, and this is why Shiva represents a lot of times stillness and kind of like silence and the void and darkness, because from silence sounds emerges, or energy, or Shakti literally means energy from the ground of being. First, you have awareness, and this thing happen simultaneously, so it's very hard to perceive it, okay? Because you're aware to phenomena around you, and it's happened simultaneously. So to distinguish between self-awareness and awareness itself, it's very hard. And this is, for example, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and Buddhism takes one to be the observer of reality. So detaching from your sense object, go inside. In the Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali, Pratyahara represent take the senses inside, no longer interact with the world. So you become this observer and identifying with the observer, the one seeing the world. And then they took it a step further and they say about Vimarsha. Vimarsha represents self-reflection, the dynamic, creative, and active aspects of consciousness, symbolize the awareness of awareness, where consciousness recognizes itself. It's associated with Shakti and the energy or power of Shiva that enables expression, movement, and diversity. Vimarsha is Shiva's power to know and express himself, the force behind manifestation and differentiation. So when we familiar with the terminology of Shiva and Shakti, masculine and feminine, this is how the tradition come to say there is no separation, but just for the sake of language, we have to distinguish between the two because it happens simultaneously. Okay, you have awareness, and the awareness have the power to be aware of itself. This is Shiva and Shakti. Okay, like they describe it like the fire and the power to burn can never be separate. So you have fire, which is represent awareness, and the power to burn is always coming with the fire. Hence, Shiva and Shakti never separated from the first place. This is also important to understand when we talk about awakening or true liberation, understanding there was never a separation from the first place. And this is a fundamental truth that want to know about intellectually and then experience through different means. A little bit more about the relationship between the two so we can understand. Prakasha, or awareness, without vimarsha, without self-awareness, without an ability to know itself, is inherent and unconscious. It cannot know itself. Vimarsha without prakasha is non-existence. If you have just self-awareness but no awareness at all, it relies on the ground of illumination to operate. So together they form the unity in duality. Prakasha is the being, while Vimarsha is the becoming. Prakasha is the light, and Vimarsha is the play of reflection in the light. So you have a screen and you have a light, it's another analogy, and you have the images on the screen doing shapes and colors. Like we watch a movie, for example, and the movie is projected on a screen, like all days movie theater, and we are busy looking at the figures and the drama happening on the screen, but there is the screen. The screen is never get stained by the reflection of light. There is never, it's never, nothing happened to the screen just by projecting on it. And this relationship between the two is essential to understand. This interplay is a creative pulsation, or in Sanskrit, spanda, that gives rise to the universe. As the Advaita Vedantic, for example, saying that eventually we want to identify with consciousness as Brahma, which is unmoving, unchanging, undescribable, no shape, no color. Consciousness is very static. Everything else that exists is an illusion. It's maya, cognitive error. And the tantric says, no, consciousness is actually not still, it's vibrating very, very fast. And there is always the movement between subject, object, and hence reality is being manifested. The realization of non-duality involves recognize that the self, vimarsha, is not separate from the light of awareness, prakasha. And different practices in Tantra, such as meditation and mantra, often aim to experience and integrate these principles, leading to an embodied realization of oneness with Shiva and Shakti. That was a bit of the deep teaching from this. If there is any question before I continue about other stuff, if something wasn't as clear enough, please, I encourage you to fill. I know it's very common to usually most of the people that come to my class need to digest this stuff before they can think of a question. But if something comes up, please feel free to ask. All right. Considering everyone is still on the call, no one left. How awakening changes your life? Okay, so why is this something that is important to understand? It's a paradigm shift. It's not a moral upgrade. Okay, so many think that awakening makes you a better person or morally superior. However, according to this tradition, awakening doesn't make you morally perfect. It frees you from the ego driven need to be better than others. You no longer need to prove anything, and you live without the constant need to identifying with your action or thoughts. Hence, you don't have a self anymore that needs to defend itself and so on. So you just are free from this cognition state. Awakening isn't just about knowing but being. When you awaken, you stop needing to interpret and label things. You become intimately connected with reality as it is. It's a shift from understanding to simply being with the world. So reality at this moment unfolding in a certain way for us, can we identify and see it as it is and without pushing it or clinging to it? This is what true awakening is according to this tradition. Also, awakening is not permanent at first. After an initial awakening that people experience, you may flip between the new awareness and the old ways of seeing things. Real integration happens over time as you begin to embody the truth of who you are in every moment. This is where practice came to be. So, if some of us had a moment of awakening or a profound experience, the tradition come and say we need to integrate it and practice and start like reinforce this new identity or new experience and idea and view into our being. Behavior and action don't immediately change. The initial awakening doesn't instantly make you act differently or better in the world. The real change comes when you fully integrate awareness in your daily life. This is where practice comes. So you had a moment of profound experience. Now you actually need to make yourself reprogram your mind and in order so you can actually it's becoming authentic and with every moment. And also there is a paradox coming with it, with awakening, the freedom of choice, which the tradition elaborate excessively. There is a paradox in awakening. While we often think awakening as gaining new freedom, in reality, the more you awaken, it's the more you realize that the choice is an illusion. You don't choose to wake up. You simply wake up because of a deeper unfolding of life. Awakening doesn't mean that you now have infinite choices. It means you see that all choices are a part of a larger interconnected patterns. So this is very common for beginner on the spiritual path. They hear about the option of awakening and they think, I have to be enlightened, I have to awaken. But the only thing that is preventing from awakening to happen is the sense that you need to get it. You are actually the false you, the ego, is standing in between awakening to just happen, as this is our natural state, to the rest of of being. So when we think we have a choice in that manner to awaken or to walk on the spiritual path, the tradition come and say it's not our choice. This is a very deep impulse or desire to do so. It's not something you want. Awakening isn't about a desire for something better or a goal to achieve. It's something that happens when you can't help it but see beyond the illusion. If you're deeply connected to the truth, it becomes an inevitable process. And one thing that is also important, it's not for everyone, okay? Not everyone is ready or interested in awakening. We can see clearly in the world, but a lot of the time we can find ourselves judging others, our families, our friends. Why you don't do this? You should meditate. You should do this. You should awaken, do plant medicine, do all of it. But it's not for everyone. And the tradition never force anything to happen, anyone to do anything. It's for those who are. For those who are ready for it, the process become one of peeling away layers of illusion, experiencing life as it truly is. So we need to take care of this awakening if we care about it, and the rest, the need to change or to affect the external environment, this is another cause for a lot of suffering in the world. Conclusion for this topic: awakening is not about becoming better, knowing more. It's about losing the illusion of self, seeing reality as it truly is. It's a fundamental shift that leads to freedom, but it's not simple or quick process. You can't rush it, but if you stay open, it will happen when the time is right. Any question about this? And now the final topic, just the pure motive according to the tradition. So before we continue, just a little bit more. Anything, question, judging, also different opinions. All right. So according to the tradition, we should develop like something called the pure motive. It's the key to effective spiritual practice. And for spiritual practice to truly bear fruits, there are three elements that must be aligned. Motivation for practice. We have to be motivated to do the practice, to do the work, to dive deep, to do the process of cleaning, reflecting back on ourselves, even though it's not always pleasant. The vision of reality we're cultivating, we need to learn the view of a certain tradition we're following, and it will support the practice. If I sit meditation and I'm trying to reach the anatma, there is no such thing as self or the void, or I try to see everything as Shiva, or I try to find whatever it is, I need to understand the view, and it will help the practice to bear more fruits. And the practices themselves, we need to do practices that align with the path that we are walking. When there's aligned, the practice become very potent and moving us towards the goal of awakening. Now there are three impure motives, which I will share. And this is also interesting to our time and just show that it's not very different than 1,000 years back. The terms impure here refers to motivation that are misaligned with the true nature of reality. It's not inherently wrong or sinful. There is no such thing as sin in this tradition. There is no something as wrong in this tradition. It's very transgressive and no judging stuff as that in that way. But these motives are ineffective in producing lasting transformation because they arise from misunderstanding about who we are and what the practice is for. Everyone on the spiritual path starts with at least one or more of these impure motives, but when with continued practice and insight, we can shift towards a pure motive. So all of us can resonate with all of it, just understanding it's not wrong, it's not something that is seen or wrong, it's just something we can just, without understanding, we cannot know better. When we understand, we can change it. The first one, we come to spiritual practice in order to fix something that is wrong with ourselves. This motivation have a lot of people following this narrative, practicing because we believe something is broken or missing within us. We think that through the practice we can fix ourselves and attain something that we are lacking. This is a false idea according to this tradition, because true practice of awakening is about acceptance and surrendering, recognizing reality as it is, not identifying with what we think is wrong. Right? So fixing ourselves, it's not the right motive to do a practice. Like, I have to meditate, I'm angry all the time. Great. If you can recognize you're angry while you're angry, you have opportunity to awaken. But this takes a practice and accepting of those conditions. The antidote is realize that your essence is already perfect. There is nothing wrong with you as you are. Spiritual practice isn't about fixing, but about uncovering the truth of your inherent wholeness. Second one, to experience pleasures and peak states, seeking spiritual experiences, bliss, transcendence, and peak states as the goal. The desire is to feel good all the time, to chase powerful experiences or highs while avoiding discomfort or ordinariness. So people just addicted to these peak experiences think they need to transcend their consciousness, only pleasure, only good. Spiritual, true, mature spirituality. It's not about only pleasure. It's actually about facing discomfort, because when life give you those discomforts, um, now what? Now show us where the practice comes from. The antidote, it's spiritual practice isn't about chasing heights or avoid lows. The goal is to shift your default state toward truth, which often involves facing discomfort, pain, and the ordinary experience of life. Joy is a natural byproduct of truth, not the end goal. Okay, so when we find ourselves attaching to truth, to pleasures, to peak experiences, and when it's not happening, we find ourselves disappointing, or the practice is not going on, is not supporting this, then we have to change the way we perceive it. To increase power of control is the last one. Using spiritual practices to acquire power, control, influence over people and situations. You may think that gaining control will bring safety and happiness to us by being more focused and centered. I could control the situation better. The antidote is shifting from seeking power to seeking the benefits of all beings. The true power of spiritual practice is in humility, service, and love and kindness, not control. So to conclude this, a quote from one of the teachers I got the privilege to learn from, Christopher Wallace Harish. He says, the tradition also suggests that the process by which consciousness awakens to itself through you, it's inevitable, and that everyone is involved in this process of self-discovery. If you think about it, this claim is quite startling. Not only is there in truth only one spiritual path dressed up in different cultural customs, but everyone is on the path. There's only one game in town, and everybody is a part of it, even if they don't know it yet. This game is the process by which life comes to fully know and love and celebrate the whole of itself. And this is the end of the slideshow. And so, again, a lot has been said. If any question, reflection, comments about all of it. And I will also just conclude with saying something very unique to this tradition is that this tradition, in this philosophy, consciousness never said no to any experience. Okay, and this is why when we are seeing all the evil happening in the world and all the disasters and all the stuff that we consider is wrong based on moral and society, in this tradition, it's important to understand that if it happened, it's because consciousness allow it to happen. It doesn't give right for us humans to do and behave in a certain ways, but it just give a peace of mind of seeing reality as it is, doing what we feel right to benefit all beings, to benefit others. But when we're actually facing something wrong and judging it as wrong, tapping into this united state of awareness, we understand that if consciousness allowed it to happen, then it's a part of the game. Without bad experiences, we cannot experience the good. And this is something that I found very beautiful. Okay, but I can talk more, and there is a lot more to say, but this is what we have for this time. And any question, reflection? Yes. I don't know what to do with this hand.
Thank you so much, David. Wow, there's so much for us to think about here. What an incredible presentation.
Yeah.
Celicia, please go ahead with your question or comment.
Hi, David. I am unclear for someone that follows this tradition. They don't believe in sitting in the woods and just observing life. They believe in participating in life. But if you're not coming from a place of avoiding discomfort and chasing comfort or fixing yourself or trying to gain control of a situation, then what motivates you to participate in the world? Could you elaborate on that?
Yes. Beautiful question. So first of all, it's not that they are not believing that sitting in the forest is wrong or anything. They have all kind of practices. They just include all of the practices, including the practices involve relationship, as this tradition is specifically for householders, people with families and relationship, and they want to have jobs and sustain a certain lifestyle, so they can practice as well. But sometimes in isolation and stillness, it's also important in this practice. It's not just about going there. The thing is about the pure motive. What is the right motive and how to do so? How to get the right motive? According to this tradition, it's very simple. Before we begin our practice or we begin our day, we pray for the right motive to be there, for our action to be manifested in a certain ways. So because if I don't know the right motive, and usually the right motive is about knowing the truth, connecting to the true essence of life, the true self, realizing reality as it is in every moment to get the reflection I need so I can face the challenges. If we don't have it to put into words, we can ask with prayer about to receiving the right motives, and may the right motives will rise within me so I can benefit others. Usually, it's about benefiting others. Usually, it's something like a bodhicitta, bodhisattva vow. It's very common. My awakening is for the benefits of others. This is one of the highest motives. But again, whatever bring you closer to the truth and help you identifying more with your true essence, it's valid according to this tradition. If it's support separation, then it's just a different path. It's just something that is not right and complete from this view. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. I think there was someone else that take off the hand.
Yeah. Did you have a question? Did anybody else have a question? Maybe it was Pygmy?
Padme, yeah, I had my hand up. Yeah, good morning. Thank you so much for this beautiful, in partnership, talking about that we're not separate from anything and talking about all of the things that brought us to being or the circumstances that have arisen. How does that work in relationship, like when you have two partners and they're both committed to their practice, but maybe one believes that like they can't have their awakening or move through their practice or without the separation, that it's separate from the relationship. Does that did that question make sense?
Yes, yes, yes. Clearly, it's something that a lot of people, me included, were facing, which you can do a trial and error with it and like always try something and see what the outcomes. But the idea is this: only one in the relationship need to understand the truth, because there is no eventually as a dualistic view, but it seems like it, that there are two individuals trying to do something, and when there are, like, for example, a different concepts or ideas of what is the awakening process is, everything is welcome. Everything that supports the practitioner to come closer to its true essence, unless it's violent or self-harm, because a lot of people can do that, long fast and the hatha yoga tradition, for example, standing for 12 years. You can see videos of it in YouTube and stuff that is actually more associating with this aesthetic state of mind, which can be beneficial also. But in relationship, it's not working. To date a monk, it's not as beneficial as you want a partner that wants relationships. It just takes a lot of communication and understanding and receiving and being open to other techniques and other paths. And this is just education about other means to practice and philosophy, which I feel in this today's world, it's a crucial thing to understand, because a lot of us can do a teacher training, for example, for yoga, and the main teaching there is Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and we quote the Buddha, and we throw the Buddhism in there, and some Patanjali, and some Advaita Vedanta, and some Tantra, and then a teacher training. But these concepts are very specific to very specific people. For example, everyone that have done a teacher training, have learned Patanjali Yoga Sutras, just need to understand that Patanjali talk to Brahmin men ascetics. And the fact that today I teach women in yoga teacher training the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and I find it like very amusing how we will think about women learn this kind of stuff. Trying to apply also teaching from back then and to adjust them into today's world is also not working so much. So just understand that there are many paths, and if someone is more associate with the aesthetic or the idea of forcing awakening to happen, it takes a lot of compassion from the other person and a lot of communication. And this is where therapy is something that comes, and I've learned a lot of nonviolence communication and this kind of stuff, like learning how to define our needs and describe what is actually going on in terms of two people in a relationship practicing different stuff, how to come to agree on certain ideas and philosophies, understanding also it's for the sake of entertainment, because there is no one doing wrong essentially. It's just some people more resonate with that, and this is valid. We just need to accept it. Was that answering? Because I took a
Yeah.
little bit of a detour from
No,
that.
I understand what you're saying. And the different ideas is one person, the relationship is coming from a place of resistance of like, I don't want to do that work right now, feeling like that's separate from the awakening versus like the
Ah,
what's in the way is the way, like what, right?
yeah.
So what's in the way is the way, and it's the path to really um ev evolving or transcending versus I can't do that right now because I'm trying to
Mhm.
transcend. I'm doing my practice, and that's not included. you know?
Yeah, I get exactly this specific state of mind of transcendental state of awakening. It's valid according to many tradition, but this tradition, it's actually you want to be there, transcendent sometimes, but you also want to be awakened now here in the midst of an argument, in the midst of life happening, in the midst of, I don't know, cooking, love, and all of the celebration of life. uh, I will take it as an opportunity to increase your practice and your skills of communication and your skill of compassion and skills way to bring the practice into a way that you can actually communicate what you need in a way that usually resistance comes with the other component of it of maybe judging or communicating in a way that is very much easy for those who associate with the ascetic. Just yeah, it's just, but I don't want to work on this. I want to be there. It's very much I was there also until I've learned, and I'm still learning how to overcome this because discomfort, the discomfort in relationship, it's something that yeah, it's a whole different paradigms of practices and skills that I very much recommend. There's good teachers, amazing teachers. I myself work with couples and in this kind of field. It's fascinating to know how relationship could be a practice as itself, which different views, different concept, different ideas of what is right, what is wrong, and yet if two people love each other, it could be a beautiful practice of compassion, love, and devotion to one another. So there is something to do about it for sure. I wouldn't say to settle for anything and just look at it as a practice. And this is
Yeah.
and yeah.
I reached out to you on Facebook, but I'm not sure that you saw me there. And I guess so two questions. Well, one is just how to reach out or contact you to work with you specifically. And then the other question is how to support people in starting a morning practice or getting into the groove of, starting their morning practice. Is it just listen, set your alarm and just get up, start by getting up, or till the soil, how to get people to start that? Because I think that in the work that I do, that is an important factor, but I'm not finding that I'm able to inspire people to add that dynamic into their practice. So wondering if you have any insights on how to
Um,
break people free of the not doing, the not practicing, or the not starting, if that makes
yes,
sense.
yes. First of all, it's very hard to force these kind of things on others. As simply, I said it before, some people are just not interested in it. And also the person that does it regularly, for me, for example, for years, I don't know how morning looked like without the practice. It's just so ordinary that it makes sense, but makes sense just for my point of view. So it's also to understand that it doesn't need to make sense to everyone. The morning practice are for specific people. A skill, if you want to inspire people, find a practice that fits for them according to their temperament, their character, how they can cultivate awareness in a way that is comfortable and supporting their practice and invoke less resistance than I don't want to wake up now and I need to sit now and I just find myself, okay, I'm sitting on the mat for 20 minutes because you told me to, I don't feel anything. And then they just don't do the practice at all. So if a skillful a teacher find a practice that fits for them, and this is where you have, in this tradition specifically, tremendous amount of practices. Just the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra shares 112 meditation techniques, which is not silent meditation techniques like disassociation. It's very much involving games of mind, perception. I always talk to my people, my students that come to class, that practice is not something that never ends. Like if you find yourself ending your practice, then clearly the practice is very limited, but you can lay on the couch scrolling through social media as a practice, watch Netflix as a practice, you can eat as a practice, but you can just need to find the right means that attract to them. And some people like to wake up early and then they do that. So yeah, if that
Okay,
also
yeah, and there's a couple people I'm thinking of that in particular are like, well, I want to, but I feel like I just can't. Like every morning, I just like I'm under a spell. I do something different instead.
yeah. This is a result of a karma, character, doshas, gunas. The teaching says a lot about that. Some people just wake up. Some people prefer to wake up to do the practice before going to sleep. Uh, just need to find the right practice for the right people. Not forcing anything to happen. More resistance. This is the opposite of this way. Other practices is resistance is good. Like yeah, sit 10 days vipassana meditation. It's beautiful. Find your resistance and challenges and yeah.
Yeah, it's resistance, but it's different. So yeah, I see that. Okay, and then as far as connecting with you,
Maybe I send Suzanne my details and she can share in a group or something. And yeah,
thank you. Thanks for the
you're
presentation.
welcome.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. I don't think I have your email address. I wonder if there's something we can put in the chat, David, so that everybody could have it. Is that possible?
I can, yeah, I can send social media. I can send whatever, but I will send you and you can in the chat.
Yeah, if you
It will
can,
take
just
a,
because then I don't, because I don't have
okay.
everybody's email that's here,
Okay, so this.
if it's easy.
And I made a request on Facebook, so if you see me there, then that would be a way to connect, I'd imagine.
I think this is for Instagram and Facebook. So
Perfect.
yeah, I will look. So any other question, sharing, insights, something? I don't know the time scale that we have, but sure.
We're never short of time. That would
Okay.
not be true to me. And so if there is any other questions or comments, we welcome them. I'm just really taken by how you were able to share so much information in a short period of time, David. You just did a great job, and I'm looking forward to listening to this recording again. Because I feel like there's some really key important messages, and I've made some notes, but there's just so much freedom in the way you presented this and the path and the options, and just brings up a feeling in me of compassion for the human mind and all the ways they want to do it right and get there and have a destination and embracing this idea we're floating in a sea of love and we don't even know it. In any case, I don't see anybody's hands up. And so I just want to thank you very much, David, for a beautiful presentation. I know there will be our listeners that will go to our YouTube channel and be able to listen to the recording. And I wondered if you might consider coming back again sometime to speak with us, because I can see you have a lot to share, and we would love to hear from you again.
Sure. Whatever you need.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, David. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen because we will do the closing prayer together. Let me just do that now. And I invite you to go to the Soul School Network website. And certainly if you would like to add your name to the email list for our upcoming presentations, which in 2 weeks from now is an open mic. And so we record those and then we decide, depending on what direction we go in, whether that's something that we can post that recording. But we like to get into some topics that sometimes people don't feel they can ask about, talk about, share about, investigate through other meetings. And so we'll just see what open mic brings us in 2 weeks from now. So here we go. I invite you to, if you are muted, to say this prayer along with me out loud or to yourself. The mantra of unification. The souls of all are one, and I am one with them. I seek to love, not hate. I seek to serve and not exact due service. I seek to heal, not hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form and life and all events, and bring to light the love that underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate and outer cleavages be gone. Let love prevail. Let all people love. So I wish everybody a wonderful day, a wonderful week. See you in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much for being here. I know there's many places you could choose to be, and you're here with us. So thank you so much, David, from each and every one of us. Appreciate you and your great work. I learned a lot this morning, and I'm going to learn more. I'm going to listen again and learn more. So thank you so much, David.